From serving her country to stepping into the spotlight at age 63 on Big Brother, Felicia Cannon's journey is a testament to risk and resilience. On this episode of The Significance, Felicia reflects on a life defined not by limits, but by faith and fearlessness. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. The Significance with Tyler and Signy starts now. Today, we're honored to share our space with a woman whose story is a testament to resilience, reinvention, and rising above the noise. You may know her from Big Brother, where at 63, she became the oldest woman to ever compete. And not only competed, but captivated millions with a voice that commands both laughter and respect. But Felicia Cannon's journey did not begin in the Big Brother house. She's a mother, a veteran, a corporate leader, and a woman who reminds us that it's never too late to step into the spotlight and own your purpose. Today, we'll talk about navigating change, finding strength in unexpected areas, and living boldly at any age. This is a conversation about faith, fire, and the power of showing up fully, honestly, and unapologetically, and showing us that significance doesn't fade, it deepens. Felicia, welcome to The Significance. We're so happy you're here.
Thank you. I appreciated the significance. I like that. I like that. It's my pleasure to be here in the space with you all today.
Well, I had mentioned to you before we came into the studio that upon doing research on you, your resume is like a who's who. I was literally exhausted. I'm like, how could anyone keep up with this woman? And I love, you talked about in another podcast that you did, you emphasized how important school is.
Yes.
Stay in school. Education, so important. The more you know, the more you know. That's it. Knowledge is power. And my father really hammered that into our heads growing up. But you, 5 years as a security police officer, 15 years as a contracting specialist / officer, 20 years in the Air Force, 19 years General Services Administration, working as a contract officer and a procurement analyst. You have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree in business and acquisition management, and now you're a realtor. And this is just like the tip of the iceberg, because I get the sense that ongoing education is very high on your priority list.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe, again, knowledge is power. People can strip you down of a lot of things, but they can never take away what you know. Once you know it, you know it. Yes.
Beautiful. So true.
Let's go back to the beginning. Before the cameras, the competitions, and the spotlight, who was Felicia Cannon? What shaped the woman you became before the world now knows your name?
Well, it's been a lot of moving pieces. I tell people that we are in charge of the story of our book of life. We're the author, we write the script, and we also control who the cast people are that come into our life. And my life started as one of 5 siblings. My mom was a single parent, raised us in Tacoma, Washington. But we had a big extended family, my aunts and uncles, and there were 7 of them, inclusive of my mom. And everybody thought we were brothers and sisters, but we were aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews. We all went to school together. We all went to church together. And church really is our foundation. When I say we lived, eat, breathe church, we lived, eat, breathe church. We were at church on Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and all in between. And we were in the choir and in, the usher board and the guild girls and the this and Sunday school and baptismal. Back in the day when they used to have church all day. And so you went to Sunday school in the morning, and then you went to church, and then you had the 3 o'clock program, and then you had the afternoon program, and then you had the BTU and Sunday school and then church school. And so that's just what we did. So everything that I have done has stemmed from that foundation of all things are possible. The faith of a mustard seed. And that's why when I got out, it's like, come on, God, when everything's got tough. No, they don't allow you to have any materials in the house, but they said you can have one book, the Bible. And I said, okay,
No,
that works.
that works for me. That works for me.
That works for me. I said, so when people get crazy, I said, I can bring myself down and I can get that sense of peace that I need if I can get up and read the Bible every day. And that really was my sense of calm in the house.
I love that,
So, yeah,
Felicia. That's beautiful. I
yeah.
don't know how you had time to pursue so much of your education, woman. Yeah, like I said, you're making me exhausted. I love it. I love it.
My mom has always been a go-getter. She got her bachelor's degree at 50 years old, 40, 50 years old, because she was, again, single parent. We used to be on welfare, food stamps, all of that stuff. We got the baskets at Thanksgiving time and Christmas. And, at the beginning of the school year, we got like 3 outfits. And then, the school supplies, we got a new outfit for Christmas, a new outfit for Easter. We always had a summer job because we had to help her. We had to help
Exactly.
bring in the income for us to exist.
Mm.
And my mother was very resilient, though. She cooked, she baked, she sold pies and cakes and all of that to make extra income. And she always taught us that, when we got our first summer jobs at 14, she took us to the bank and showed us how to open up a bank account
There
and how
you
to
go.
save and how to manage the checkbook and all of that. And she always taught us to be able to take care of ourselves. We can't rely on anybody but ourselves. Now, again, God is at the top of all of that, but just to never rely on somebody else to fend for us. We got to learn how to fend for ourselves. We have to be survivors. So she was very resilient. She believed in always striving to do better. When you reach one goal, now you're stretching for another one. And I guess that's probably why I've done so many things, because it's like, you don't stop when you reach one goal. It's like, okay, what do I want to do next? And I've kind of lived my life like that. Okay, what am I going to do next? Because I don't like being idle. They say idle time is the devil's workplace. And I believe in that.
Yeah. There's a quote I always love: pray, but move your feet.
Okay. Prayer
Exactly.
without works, you don't get nothing done.
Well, what an amazing mentor your mother was to you.
Yes.
And the fact that you got your bachelor's when you were 45 and then your master's at 55. So she set the example.
She
You
said,
know what?
"You are never too old."
She cut the path, a very wide and beautiful path. And I think that I know that everybody has difficulties growing up in a large family. I'm not sure what order you were in the the pecking order with your siblings. I was the youngest of 4, but let me tell you, we had chores all the time. We all chipped in. And I was chopping wood when I was 9 years old. There was no
Okay.
getting around that. Oh yeah, we had summer jobs. We worked together as a family, and
Yes.
it gave me a foundation going out into the world. It was the same thing. My parents were like, "You will be self-reliant. You will learn
Yes.
how to stand on your own 2 feet and just be able to do what you need to do for yourself." And my father was, and both my parents were very big on education as well. So I love hearing that, because clearly it turned out well for you. You're a living, breathing example of how it works. So you served in the U.S. Air Force. What led you there, and what did those years teach you about yourself?
Well, so there's a lot to that story too. So I didn't realize, now you said you didn't know where I fall on the pecking line. So the 5 siblings, and I was the second oldest, and I was the oldest female. So I had a brother a year older, and that he's the one, Norman, he's the one that passed while I was in the house.
Oh, I'm
Oh.
sorry. I'm so
Yeah, he
sorry.
got into a really bad car accident,
Oh.
Oh
and
no.
it was on day 58. I'll never forget. It was day 58, and I found out that he had been in the accident, and he actually passed on day 60. Now, I didn't find out what day he passed until I came out of the house, because I told him I didn't want to know. And I'm going to come back to what you said, but here's to show you how, if you're truly in spirit, in touch with God. On day 60, I went into the dining room and I said, I want to send a message to my family because I believe my brother passed today.
Oh my goodness.
And so I did the message. And then when I came out of the house, I asked them, I said, I ran up and I said, how's Norman? And they said, Felicia, he passed. And I said, oh. And I said, what day was it on? I said, it was day 60, wasn't it? I said, it was 2 days after they told me. They said, yeah, but I said, did they tell you? And I said, no, because I told them I didn't want to know. I said, but I felt it.
You knew.
I knew on that day he passed.
That's
The
amazing.
power of being a sibling and
Yeah.
growing up in a very close household.
Yes,
Yeah.
That
yeah,
is I'm so, so sorry,
Yeah.
yeah.
Felicia, what a
But
loss.
back to what I was saying, so I was the oldest female, and so I didn't even realize it at the time. My mother really in how we interacted and engaged in the house. I became this leader of my siblings and didn't even realize it. And people always looked at me as a leader. I never saw myself as a leader. I just knew that my mother said, we got to get this done, this done, this done. And she always came to me. And I used to get upset with that. There's 5 of us. Why do you always come to me?
Wait a second.
Wait a minute.
Uh,
But I guess she saw that natural take charge leadership something in me. So she always threw me in charge. And then, so then when I got in the military, it was again, unbeknownst to me, not really seeing myself as a leader. When I was a cop, 3 years in, I made E5, and they made me a flight chief. And I was thinking, wait a minute, I don't want to do all of that. What's going on? And they're like, no, you can do this. We see it, and you have leadership skills, and so we're gonna make you become a flight chief. And that was 5 years in by the time I actually sewed on the stripe. And I'm now though in charge of 20, 30 people that outrank me, people that have been in 10 years. And again, now they didn't appreciate this because here I am, this little young something coming in and don't really know what I'm doing. And they're like, what the world? How are you going to be telling us what to do? And I'm like, trust me, I don't want to tell you
Yeah,
what
you will. What a perfect response. A perfect response.
Yes.
Oh my
I'm like,
God.
I just want to sit over here and mind my own business. But they pushed me into this leadership position. And from that point on, everywhere I went, I was always in a leadership position. And that's when I finally realized, okay, this is who you are naturally, Felicia. So just grow with it because this is
There
where
you
you're always
go.
going to be.
Mhm. Oh my gosh.
So it's amazing how that happened.
Yeah.
But another reason why I actually went into the Air Force, because I had always swore, we lived in Tacoma, Washington, Fort Lewis, and McCord Air Force Base. And I swore that I would never go into the military. And so this is kind of crazy. And I think I mentioned this in the diary room. I don't know what hit the air as far as everything hit the air. But I was dating somebody back in the day who was, let's just say there was domestic violence.
Oh,
And
dear.
it
Sorry.
was not a good relationship. And I knew that if I didn't leave, it was not going to be a good outcome for me. I felt that again. My spirit was talking to me, you got to get out of here. Either you're going to hurt him or he's going to hurt you.
Good
I
for
used to
you.
sleep, I used to sleep at night with a knife under my pillow. That shows you how crazy it got. I remember one time him beat me up so bad he knocked my tooth out, blah, blah, blah. My 2 aunts, who were, like I said, were like my sisters. One was a year older, one was 2 years older. They knew, but nobody else knew. I never told my brothers, uncles, my mom, my grandmother, because I just didn't want what might come after that, because I knew they would feel the need to protect me, but they couldn't be around me 24/7. I had to be able to protect myself.
Exactly.
So I decided I was going in the military, and that's how I became a cop. They kept saying, you do not want to be a cop. Yes, I do. If you don't let me come in guaranteed as a cop, I'm not coming in. I wanted to learn how to shoot a gun. And that's real. I said, I got to go into a field where I'm going to learn how to protect myself. I want to be a security police officer. And that's what I did. And I loved it when I was a cop.
Wow.
I loved it day in and day out. But I got tired of fighting all of the men all the time, proving that I deserved to be there just like them.
Right.
That I could be just as good as them, even though I was a female. And it was a battle every day, particularly after I became a flight chief, because they didn't appreciate the fact that a female was telling them what.
Yeah.
I can imagine. And
Yeah.
you know what? We make plans and God laughs. That I
Yes.
know for a fact. And God bless you for having the strength to
Yes.
identify that you were in a bad situation, because there's many women and men who don't have the strength to leave a relationship for whatever
There you go.
reasons. So thank you for sharing that, because it's so important for people to hear that you found the strength to do that.
What values carried over from the military training and the police training that you took to the corporate world?
Discipline, structure, a great work ethic, learning people, personalities, realizing that no matter where you work in any kind of job, there's still I say people playing the roles. I'll even tie it back to Big Brother. You know, when
Right.
they put you in the house, they're picking people based on the role that they see them playing in the house and all these different 16, 17 personalities. And so everywhere I went, I realized it was important to learn who the people were in the room. You got to know who the players are. You can't change people, so you have to know who are they and how can I
Exactly.
make them work to help this team be successful so we can get the mission done. So when you learn who your natural leaders are that you're working with, when you learn who the people that are really, really technically skilled, the people that are more your I just want to be a follower. Just let me sit over here in my corner and do my job. I don't want to be a leader. I just want to be the one that gets the job done. The people that are very skilled at what they do, the people that, you know, you're going to have to do more hands-on training with because they're, you know, your rating scale goes from a 1 to a 5 and you know who your 5s are, your 4s are, and your 3s are. And that just means that you have from your average to above average to excellent. You got to know who those people are. You got to know who the people are that instigators. So they throw stuff out there and then they sit back and watch all the chaos explode.
Absolutely.
You know, and act like they don't know what they just did. And so when you learn people, then you learn how to mitigate around all of these different personalities to make still the job be successful. I used to tell people as a supervisor, because people would get mad when you're trying to get them to do the job that they got hired and paid to do. And I would say, listen, we don't have to be friends. We have to be professional enough, though, to be able to come in here every day from 7:30 to 4:30, 9 to 6, whatever everybody's working hours are, because we have flex hours. We have to be professional enough to come in here every day and work together to get the job done. When you walk out that door and you see me in the parking lot, if you don't speak to me, I'm okay with that. If you see me in the mall and
That's
you don't talk to
brilliant.
me and you walk past and you don't talk to me, I'm okay with that. We don't have to be friends out here. We gotta get along in here though. And then once we walk out of here, as long as we're all meeting the goals and the mission, we're good. We were successful. Friendship is icing on the cake.
Exactly. But that is such an important tool to have
Yes.
in your, you know, in terms of life lessons.
Yes.
That is a huge percentage of somebody being successful or not. And thank you for sharing that. I mean, that is you are
If everybody could
you're
just do that in
amazing.
yes, if everybody could do that in their everyday jobs and just realize everybody's not gonna like you and that's okay.
Exactly.
Mhm.
But
And it's
can we get along?
Exactly.
precisely
Exactly.
none of my business what you think of me outside of the workspace, but you will, you know, we need to work well together and you will respect me no
There you
matter
go.
what.
There you go.
Have you always had this fire? I mean, to speak up, show up, and stand tall, or it was something life demanded you grow into over time?
My mom tells me I've always had it. She says that I've always, and again, even in my younger age, I still remember things in elementary school and in middle school and in high school where I'm thinking that I'm just being me. And I didn't realize I always had that something to stand up for myself. And I was always small. I was always, you know, when you take the school pictures, I was always on the bottom. I'm one of the littler people, but I always had a big voice. And that just came natural for me. And I can't tell you where that comes from, but it has always been a part of who I am. I've always felt a need to stick up for the underdog. And I think
Oh, you and I both.
yes, I saw myself as an underdog. So it's like, oh no, I ain't gonna let you walk all over me. I don't care if you are bigger than me. I'm gonna find a way to stand up to you.
Did your siblings always think, oh, she's the opinionated one? Did you have that growing up or?
Yes. In fact, we used to get into it a lot of times because they would say, I never knew when to shut up. And again, so my brothers are, one brother is 5'10", one brother was 5'11". They were always bigger, stronger. Well, I knew physically I could never stand up to them. So I learned how to fight them through words.
There you go.
That was my space. I can't get you with my physical ability, but I can get you with my mouth.
I will whip you with my mouth. I love that. That's
That's
so
amazing.
true.
So many people settle in or shrink back later in life, even when they've accomplished so many things. But you keep leaning in. Was there a moment that shifted your perspective on that? Like, even though I've accomplished this, this, and this, I'm still gonna set these goals and I'm still gonna go after stuff.
Well, I believe you're as young as or old as you feel. And I believe that if you stop moving, if you stop engaging, if you stop using the mind, you will age. And, my mother is 85 and she's had some health issues. Probably within the last 5 years, we've actually seen her slow. And we used to get upset with her and saying, Mom, you can't do all of this. And she used to say, don't tell me what I can't do. Like now we're telling her, you really need to stop driving.
Oh, right.
Exactly.
The big
But
one.
she's like, I've slowed down. She doesn't drive when it's dark anymore, and she doesn't go too far. But she's like, I know what I'm capable of, and me staying involved and engaged is what keeps me living. And so I didn't even realize it till probably within the last 5 or 6 years or so. But I am very much my mother's child. And then I feel like you have to keep going. And the more I go and do, the more I want to do. We do the real estate, but now I've jumped into another business venture called Planet Marketing, and it's where they market travel. And it keeps you very engaged and talking to people every day. And I love it. And my husband Dwayne keeps saying, Felicia, we retired and I thought we were going to be retired. I said, well, that depends on that. That depends on what you consider to be retired. I said, Dwayne, I can't sit at home on the couch.
Yeah.
That is never going to work for me.
Never gonna
I can't do
happen.
that. I said, when I engage with people, it gives me energy. It gives me life. And I always have to do that. I thought about going to school and getting a doctorate degree.
I wouldn't be surprised if
Oh, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me either. And not only that, hey, Dwayne, I think you had a preview of what you were getting into, out of the gate with her. She's a pistol. She's a pistol. So I don't see you slowing down anytime soon.
No, I'm not going to. I can't.
How have you come to understand risk, especially as we age? Does it get scarier or, in your opinion, somehow more necessary?
I have to say a little of both. So I think risk is good because it keeps you challenging yourself. Again, when you become scared to take risks, that means that you're settling. And I've never been a settler. So I'm not afraid of risk. It's like, for instance, with Planet Marketing, they say this isn't a something for the people who are afraid of a no. I've never been afraid of a no because a no actually pushes me to say, I got to figure out how to turn that no to a yes. And so I just have to find alternative means, alternative ways to do things. But I just still believe that if you keep going, that the resiliency and the um, just the ability to keep moving and keep going. Risk is good. I look at risk as a challenge, and I don't look at challenges as a negative something. I just look at them as a something that, okay, so I just have another something that I got to overcome. What's my workaround? So instead of saying this won't work, I'm trying to figure out, here's the obstacles. How am I going to make it work? And that's the way I can see really everything in life. How do I make this work?
What do you say to people that think that their window has closed?
Well, and so young people, middle-aged, older people, I try to tell people to live life to the fullest. Tomorrow isn't promised. So what do you want to do today to be the best version of yourself? And never, I say this to my son. We've got one son, 26, and I tell him all the time, I said, you have to be your own biggest advocate. Never close your own door. Dream big. And here's the thing though, after you dream it, if God, I believe that if God gives you the ability to see it, to vision it, that means he's also giving you the ability to make it come to fruition.
I agree.
Yes. I don't believe he put anything in our spirit and in our vision that we can't accomplish. So when you get these dreams, you have to believe that the dream can actually materialize. And then everything you do moving after that, it's working towards making that dream come true.
So true. And don't give up before the miracle happens, for heaven's sakes,
Don't give up.
It
Don't
could be
get the first roadblock and quit. You can't get the first roadblock and quit. And this is where, my husband may not appreciate this, but this is where we are, we are complete opposites because he really is somebody where a lot of times he doesn't dream. And he doesn't believe. And so even in a lot of the stuff that I've done, he's sitting back and he's saying, that ain't going to happen. When I applied for Big Brother and I told them that I was, when I first told him and my son that I was going to
Oh,
apply,
my
they laughed and
goodness.
said, Felicia, do you really think you're going to get on Big Brother? Absolutely.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
That's the spirit. I love that.
One day I came in the house and I said, I'm ready to do the video. And he's like, so you really, I said, yes, let's just do the video. Just let me do this because I believe I'm going to walk through the door. We did the video, we turned it in, and 5 months later, I got the call. And when I got that first call, they're still laughing. And I said, I am walking through that door, whether you guys believe it or not. Now, my son kind of got on board real quick. He said, Mom, I believe you can get it. I believe they're going to pick you. My husband is still laughing over here in the corner. And as we got closer and closer, and I think it actually shocked him the day they came to the house and I left. And I looked at him and I said, I told you I was walking through the door.
How good did it feel when you were able to sit back and say, "Oh, well, I
you
don't
know-
want to say I told you so, but I did."
Before that, he was watching her like, let her have that fantasy. You know? But you know what? It really is true is you can't expect other people to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself.
Precisely. You have to believe in it, and you can't let the naysayers stop you from chasing your dream because it's your dream. God gave me these visions. He didn't give them to my son and my husband and my mom, and he gave them to me. So regardless of whether they get on page with me or not, all I ever say to them is, okay, don't be a blocker. Sit over there, stay out of my way, and let me do this.
So you've talked about faith being central in your life, which touches me to no end. How has your spiritual foundation shaped your choices?
I'm not going to say I've never made mistakes and gotten in precarious situations, but for the most part, everything that I do, particularly as I've gotten older, I still always have a God forefront. Like I have a strong sense of right and wrong. I have a strong sense of treating people the way you want to be treated. I have a strong sense of a Christ likeness. And again, I'm not going to say I'm perfect because I laugh. My family and the people who know me well, they know that, I can throw a F-bomb from time to time. I can I can curse and all that, but I still always, I say, I'm Peter. Peter was a cursor in the Bible. I said, but God still had him as one of them 12 disciples. He was able to use him. And I still say, God knows that none of us are perfect. I mean, we already know that. That's why, Jesus came into the picture so that he could forgive us for all of our sins and give us that second chance. And so we have choices. And I realize that in everything that I do, I'm always thinking, what could be the negative result of this? If my gut is telling me, I really follow my gut. And when my gut says, don't do that, Felicia, I really try to follow that. When I'm questioning myself, should I do something? Honestly, you already have the answer. Because when it's right, you stop questioning it.
A lot of people don't listen to their instincts, and
they don't listen to
and
those.
then when
that little voice is telling you, and we get the. As I said to my son, "Oh no, I'm seeing red, green, blue, and gray flags." So
and how many
what's the problem?
how many times too have we not listened, and then we look back and went, I knew that shit was gonna happen.
No, it's true.
I knew that wasn't gonna work.
Every single time when there's my internal heart center voice, and then there's my intellectual head voice. It's my internal heart center voice that I need to listen to when I try and think, my way in or out of it. It always ends up not working out well when I listen to that internal, and I am so guilty of going, I'm just going to put that over in that little compartment over there for a minute. So
I believe even in the negative, so I'm going back to my God voice. Even in negative situations, I still think there's a lesson to be learned. And I always try to say, okay, God, what's the lesson in this for me? What is the lesson in this for me? Because you're trying to tell me something. And so I think even if you stay there and just realize that in everything that appears to be negative, there's always a reason for that to have happened. There's a life lesson in it. And it's preparing you for something that's coming down the road. Today is preparing me for tomorrow, which is preparing me for the next day, which is preparing me for a year, 5 years, 10 years. And I believe it's just a growth through life. It's this journey. It's this book of life that we are writing every day.
What has motherhood taught you about control, surrender, and timing?
Woo! everything. And, I was one of those very involved moms. Now, we had my son, me and my husband got married. I was 37. I had my son at 39. And so, as an older parent, by the time we had kids, everything that we did was just invested in him. So, he was our focus.
Mm.
He still lives here with us now, 26, has a job,
Beautiful.
graduated from college, all of that. But I was always one of those moms where I like to let him be him,
Mhm.
but I still had a very engaging role. I remember once when he was in high school and a couple of his friends said, you need to get your mom all out of your business.
Whoa, whoa, don't be
She,
talking about my mother.
yeah, she be
Don't
telling
be
you what to
talking
eat
about
too
my mother.
much, and yeah, and he's like, oh, okay, clearly, and they knew me because well, all of his friends, when they would hang out and stuff, I would always become friends with the parents. Jair didn't go and hang out at people's houses where I didn't know the parents. I mean, he was different. He was different. And when their kids hung with us, we used to take his friends with us on spring break and stuff like that, vacations with us and stuff. And I would always make sure that I had a rapport and a relationship with the parents to the point where I could say, so I want to make sure you're okay with me. I'm going to treat them the same way I treat Jair. I'm going to discipline them the same. When they're with us, then they're in my reign and I ain't going to let them be crazy. So if you have a problem with that, they should stay over there. And so I was one of those parents where, Jair is ADHD. And so we didn't put him on meds until he was in like fifth grade. And I remember the fifth grade teacher coming to us and saying, I love him to death, but he's so impulsive and we got to do something different.
Mm.
And so we finally put him on the meds. And I remember him saying, man, he couldn't believe it. It was the best thing that ever happened. But he still struggled by that time because he had missed some of the fundamentals in math. So he struggled in math and we would have problems sometimes. We had him in tutoring and I was up at the school all the time. I was in the PTSA. I put myself in positions to be able to be in the room and be
Yep.
engaged. But once they knew that I was showing up,
Mhm.
those problems always resolve themselves when they realize, okay, we ain't going to be able to blow smoke over
Yeah.
them.
Mhm.
She's coming
Mhm.
up here the first time something happens. So we always have to have everything lined up and on our P's and Q's. And so that really was the kind of parenting that we did. And even now, he's an adult. We let him do his own thing. But when I see stuff that gives me a red flag, I said, can I just feed you a little bit of information? I realize at the end of the day, you're going to do what you want to do. But here's what I see. I'm just giving you food for thought. And then he'll walk away, but he'll come back to me later and say, I thought about what you said. And so here's what I'm getting ready to do. Okay. I just need to know he hears me. I just and sometimes he follows what we advise, and sometimes he doesn't. And a lot of times when he doesn't, he comes back and says, "You were right."
Felicia, I was very much like you. I was really involved in both my children's schools and education, class mom, headed up fundraising departments, whatever I could do to volunteer. It was always chaperoning field trips. And because one of my daughters also has ADHD and we identified it at a very young age. And it's just wonderful that he has you as this amazing and wonderful mother. But I just feel for myself, it was so important for me to be hands-on with my children. And it's the same thing. You could have as many friends over as you want. You can invite a friend to go on vacation. I need to know the parents in order for you to venture over there and spend time with them. It's so important for me to have a feel of what, the parents are about. And I was the same way. We're happy. Your daughter, we'd love for her to come on vacation with us. I just want you to know ahead of time that I'm fairly strict with my kids and that I'm going to treat, obviously respectfully, but the same way that I treat my own children.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
they, parents loved it. They were definitely all in. So good for you. Kudos to you. How have you learned to stay rooted in your power without apology?
Well, as I get older, it's gotten easier. I have noticed they used to always say, as you get older, you really don't care. And I think the older I get, it's like, I don't care who appreciates me, doesn't appreciate me. I've gotten in a headspace now where at 65, it's like, If you don't want to be in the room with me, I'm not upset. Even when it comes to family and people that I've been friends with my whole life, and all of a sudden you feel like, I don't know, people become haters. I don't know what they become. And so I've just decided that, Felicia, if they don't want to be bothered, get out of the room with them. And so I don't try to force anybody to be in my space. And again, I've learned as I get older and older that people are who they are. You have to learn to accept them for who they are. Don't try to change them. You got to learn how to mitigate and work around them so that you can survive in the same space or get out of each other's space. So I realize I can't manage anybody but me. So I just manage me.
At this stage in your life, what do you hold sacred, whether it's a practice, a value, or a truth that you will no longer betray?
I think my biggest something that I stand on truly is, and I think it is what keeps me moving on to different things, is I really believe that all things are possible. If I believe that if God gives you the vision to see it, it is possible. And you have to be true to yourself. You have to be your authentic self. And I think when you are your authentic self, and then you trust who God made you to be, all things are possible. What's for you is for you. Nobody can close your door. Nobody can open your door. I really believe that God is in control of all of that. Even, all the crazy that is going on right now. When I tell you, I just feel like it is crazy. I get disheartened when I turn the TV on and I listen to all the stupid. And I just keep saying, how did we get here? How did we get here? We don't all have to like each other and blah, blah, blah. But when we become okay with people being treated bad just because, there's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with that. And so I just believe in, do people the way you want to be treated. Be kind to people because you want people to be kind to you. Don't take advantage of people just because.
Well, just simple adages that have just been forgotten.
Exactly.
Yes.
Simple manners,
yeah.
even just
Simple
being
manners.
polite,
Yeah.
simple please and thank you. Can I hold the door for you?
Respectful.
Gratitude.
Yeah.
Gratitude, an attitude of gratitude. That's a big one. Very
Yeah.
important. Well, you were 63 when you stepped into the Big Brother house, a space typically dominated by much younger people. What gave you the confidence to say yes to that opportunity? And I think you're answering all these questions with other questions, but you are a powerhouse. So what gave you the confidence?
I just believe that I could, again, I like people. And I believe in order to play Big Brother, you have to be a people person. Now, there are people that go in there that say they're introverts and shy and blah, blah, blah. It's difficult to be in that house if you're that person. Because you have to find a way to exist with a small space that you're sharing with 17, 16 other people you do not know. And you have to figure out how to live in that space with everybody's idiosyncrasies. But again, I love people. I like figuring out people. I like watching people. I'm one of those people that used to go to the mall and we'd sit and we just watch people.
Uh-huh.
And, me and Jai used to go in the mall and we'd look at couples and we say, they've been married about 10 years. They really don't like each other.
I love doing that at the airport. I love people watching at the airport.
You just kind of analyze them just based on their body language and their movement and all of that. And so I knew that it wouldn't be hard. I knew my biggest challenge was going to be the challenges. I didn't think I would have a hard time getting along with the people. And even though, it's a game and everybody's manipulative and all of that, I just realized if I went in there and was myself, I could at least befriend everybody in the house.
It's clear that what draws people to you is your unapologetic authenticity. But when you stepped into the Big Brother house, where strategy and self-preservation often take the lead, how did you navigate staying true to yourself while still playing this crazy game?
I had to say to myself in my head all the time, shut up, Felicia, don't say nothing.
A good rule of thumb in many situations. Right?
And I still have to do that now. But I knew that I couldn't be my all-in Felicia and last long in the house, because you really can't say everything that you're thinking. It will take you down. And so the one thing I learned, particularly being on the block 8 times, I learned quickly that the week that you're on the block, shut up. Don't say a whole lot. Let the other person implode. They're on the block and then they feel the need to just keep, they're just talking and running their mouth. And you have to learn to go silent, because if you just go silent and continue to be you, you don't want to change who you are, but you just can't afford to be very opinionated about what other people are doing and why they need to get out and all of that. You can't really. I try not to work against the other person. I would talk on why I thought I should stay and try not to talk on why I thought they should go. So again, I can only control me. So put the focus on me. Don't talk unless I really needed to, and just let them implode. And that's usually what saved me.
You're living under constant surveillance. So it's like with total strangers, it's a pressure cooker to start with. So what did that reveal to you emotionally, mentally, or spiritually? I guess that surprised you the most.
I think the biggest surprise for me in the house was how willing people are to be untrustworthy. I mean, because at some point, I do believe that there's got to be somebody in there that you can trust 100%. And you really believe that when you're talking to them, they're being genuine. And when I realized how fake people can really be, see, that's a difficult something for me. Again, you don't have to be my bestie and I'm still going to be cordial, but I can't skin and grin in the face of somebody that really just does something in my stomach. And there were a couple of people that did something in my stomach. And so again, I'm not running up in the HOH room just because you made HOH. And I'm not going to, I just love, I can't do all of that. I can be cordial. I can laugh when we talking about, movies and songs and stuff like that. But when you realize that people can lie and cheat and steal just for the sake of the game, that is something that's difficult for me. So, and those guys always thought a lot of times I was lying about stuff that I was saying. And I'm not saying I never told a lie, but I tried my best not to tell a lie. And I can probably count on one or two fingers where I actually said something that was just an outright lie, because I tried not to be that person. Even when they said that I told Jared that I wanted to be in an alliance with him, I said, go back and watch the video. What I said to him is, man, I'd almost rather be in a final two with you than Sari, because I'm not sure what she's doing right now. That was the comment I made, and we never talked about it again. So I never said, Jared, let's make a final two. But he went out and told everybody, including his mom, that I said, let's make a final two. I said, no, I didn't. So I'm talking to Sari about Jared, when he was dating Blue, and I'm like, Jared is messing up his game with Blue. And I'm talking to Jared when I told Jared. And actually, that's what messed up my game. When I went to Jared and said, man, it might almost be better for me to be in a final two with you than her, he went straight back to her and told her that, and to his mother. And that's when she's like, oh, she got to go.
The super fans will appreciate this. I was friendly back in the day with some season 10 people, Keisha and Rennie. Now, you remember season 10, right? That's like, okay, where they had the 75-year-old Jerry and Rennie and all them. And what I loved about that house was they were not fake. They all didn't care. Libra, they all were like, if I don't like you, I don't like you. And put me up, send me home, I don't care, but I don't like you. And what I loved about you was it took a long time, but in more recent seasons, it's all like a kumbaya where everybody's being fake. They all hate each other, but it's all being fake. What I loved about you was you were yourself. I'm here to play a good game, but I'm also not going to just abandon everything of myself at the door, and just be, So did you know when you were in the house, all the memes and GIFs, just from you making the bed? There was one thing where you were making the bed and you face planted in the bed. There were so many. Did you think at the time, oh my God, all these things were going to be like, become these? How shocked were you when you got out and saw all those?
When Izzy told me that there was the video out there with F and Bowie Jane, I'm like, what do you mean F and Bowie Jane? And she's like, girl, you haven't seen it. And she actually pulled it up for me. And I said, oh my. And I guess I never thought about it, because I was never thinking about what I was doing and how I was coming across to the people. I was just living in the house and in the moment. And now I'll be honest, that day when I was making up the bed and I fell forward on my face, I even knew, I said, oh Lord, I said, Dwayne and Jair are probably saying, look at her.
That's the stuff they remember. That's the stuff that lives on. A person could have played the best game, but years from later, like, you remember Felicia when she
fell in the hot tub when she dropped her mic 5 times, and I was definitely, because when I dropped it that last time, I was like, oh,
I tried
Lord,
I tried to explain to Signy when we were gonna have you on. I was trying to fill her in on stuff. I said, and they have microphones, Signy, where they have to wear and all. And I said, and she kept dropping this mic in the toilet, in the hot tub, and like it became like this. One day, I think you said, "Can I get one of them arm straps or something like this?"
Right. I'm like, this is not working. I need another way to wear this microphone.
The beauty of it is you were so authentic, and I understand what you're saying when it's like, yes, I come in and Tyler, you said that I come to win, I come to put my best foot forward, but I'm not willing to compromise my authenticity and who I am as a human being to do it.
Did you feel that when you got cast and you entered the house, when you were in it, did you feel that you would be kind of inspiring women of a certain age that you can still do this, you can still do that, you can still...
Oh, absolutely. I went in wanting people to realize, okay, I'm 63, so what? I can still hang in here with these young people. I may not be as strong as them in the physical challenges. I love the fact, too, now that they really have shifted in the last couple of years with these challenges where it's anybody's game. And I appreciate that. I wish they would have had that when we were in the house, where most of this stuff, it doesn't matter your physicality. It's more intellectual. It's more chance. It's more random. And so I think that has put everybody more on even keel, where now age really doesn't matter when you go in there. It really doesn't. And I think that's a good thing. And so, again, to all those people, though, that think they're too old, I talk to a lot of people now, and they say, oh, I wish I could go in. And I'm like, well, how old are you? And then, I'm 40, and girl, please. Or,
you're a baby.
And I'm looking at them like, what? Oh, my God, you're at your prime. You should go in there. Even somebody at 65, I would still tell them, go in there. If this is what you really want to do, go in the house. There's nothing to lose and everything to gain. You can't lose going in.
You weren't just playing a game. You were literally rewriting the narrative of what aging looks like on TV. Did you feel the responsibility? Did you feel that responsibility while you were in the house?
Yeah, I was kind of trying to get, even in some of the sidebar conversations, where you have with, and I don't know if you saw this, Tyler, kind of early in the game one day, it was in the first week or so, because Kirsten was there, and we just happened to be talking about ladies and females and how females want respect, and I could tell I really offended them, and I wasn't trying to, but I said, a lot of times young ladies, they wonder why they get abused, and I say, and I'm not saying that there's ever a time when it's okay. I said, but we don't realize how a lot of times we draw that negative behavior by our behavior. I said, so when you go into a club half naked and then somebody grabs you and you're saying, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. Well, they're like, well, look how you got your butt out. So why are you mad? Because I'm touching your butt. I said, it's that kind of something. I said, it's okay to be, I said, you can be sexy and still be covered up. I said, there's a right way to do everything. I said, and I'm not telling people, I said, because you got to do you. I said, but even in my young days, I said, I never wore anything where literally, basically the only thing covered was the nipple of my breast. I said, and you can see my butt cheeks. I said, I just never thought you had to do all of that. I said, now again, I'm talking for me. I said, but you can't go out dressed like that. And then when somebody, snatches you off the street and they think that they take you home and they say, hey, you want to come over? And you say, yeah. And then when they're now trying to take your clothes off, you're wondering, how could they be so disrespectful to you? Well, you just kind of put them in the space where they think this is what you want. I said, so we have to realize that our actions actually kind of lend people's behavior toward us.
Well, for every action, there is a reaction. For every action you take, there is a reaction.
And again, it's a fine line, because I don't want people, guys should never think that because somebody looks cute and sexy, that means that, they're promiscuous and they want.
Well, it just goes back to when the whole Me Too movement came around. I said I probably have unpopular opinions about it, but you don't go to a hotel room at 3 a.m. with a producer and expect That's going to
Thank
be a
you.
You're
meeting.
just gonna conversate.
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
He wants to have a
Yeah.
conversation at 3 in the
So
morning that he
really,
should be having at 1 in the
yeah.
afternoon.
So really, it becomes
In a public
it goes
place.
back to parenting to me, because parents telling kids nothing good happens after this time.
That's right.
Things. It all just becomes about things like that to me. So
There you go.
yeah.
There you go. It's foundation. It's morals and scruples and how were you raised. I still tell my son now. What are you doing after midnight? Again, nothing good happens after midnight. The cops are out looking for the people on the street after midnight. They waiting to see if you're gonna stray and hit that line. All of that. So you're creating the atmosphere for what happens.
It's really true. And, aging is, and I don't mean to, if I offend anybody, I don't mean to by this statement. Women get old, we get old, and men get distinguished. That sort of idea of that.
You just
And
said
it's hard
something. Oh
for
my
a
God.
woman because in our society, we are so, there's so much judgment based upon how we look. And youth and beauty, it's as old as time itself that people are attracted to youth and beauty.
I still think that I can be cute and sexy. My husband, I walk out the room and say, "What do you think?" But there's, and I love fashion. I love clothes. But there's some stuff at 65 that I'm just not going to put on because I'm 65.
How do you define legacy, and has that changed over the years for you?
It has changed over the years. I think it's like now with the planet marketing thing that I'm in. Legacy is something that you leave for generations to come. And it's like, how do I want people to remember me as somebody who lived life to the fullest. I don't ever tell myself that I can't do something. I believe that if I decide I want to do it and put my mind to it and again, and I get that vision and I see it, oh, it's on like popcorn. I'm getting ready to jump out there and I'm going to try until I realize maybe this isn't for you. But I'm going to keep pushing. And so I think the legacy is being you, living life to the fullest, and trusting God to take care of all the rest.
What truths or insights do you hope the next generation carries with them? Not just about the life you've lived, but the vastness of what's possible for their own.
Ooh, now that's a good one. I get a little scared. I'm a little scared for, I won't say scared, but worried for like Jair, at 26. And I just think, 50 years from now, what is life going to be like for them? And so I think they have to learn to stand up for what's right. I want them to be a generation that doesn't just act like, well, it ain't my business, and they just keep on pressing and acting like as long as it doesn't impact them, it's okay, and they don't worry about it. No, because you never know when this thing is going to land in your front yard. And so you got to be willing to get out there and fight for equality and, what's right, humanity, people. Um, People just being able to live a good life, no matter what type of life they want to live, they allow them to do that. Allow them to do that and not negatively impact others. It's okay if you don't like what I like and I don't like what you like, but don't let your likes and dislikes impact me to where I'm hurt in order for you to accomplish what you like.
That is a really powerful truth, and I appreciate you sharing that. That is absolutely profound. And I have a quote on my refrigerator. Tyler knows I'm very big on quotes, and it says, "What will you do with your one wild and precious life?" Question mark. That's all it says. And I think about that all the time. And what type of person do I want to be in this space on this planet?
I want to be somebody where people feel like I was always willing to help others. Me and my husband, we really have been blessed. And when you look at backgrounds and where we came from to where we are now, if at 10 years old, I would have never imagined that I would be where I'm at now and the things that I've accomplished, and even in material things. And so everything that we do, though, we're always thinking about how we can help others. And I really believe that when you serve others, you serve yourself. You always have to be willing to bring other people along with you and not just try to get to the top of the mountaintop and look down on others. I want to get to the mountaintop with this line of people coming up behind me. And that's when I'll feel like I have been successful. And so it's that kind of something. If I could get the next generation to, because I'll be honest, young people now, they really do think more about just themselves. And as long as they're happy, they're okay. We got to get them past thinking past themselves and think about others.
Everything you say is, you have to write a book, please. I want to retain all of this information. It's just amazing. Um, do you feel like your life is a message to others? If so, what's the headline?
I've thought about that really, because again, because I've been thinking about, I really have been thinking about a book for years and thought about what would the title of that book be. And I still haven't, that hasn't hit my spirit yet.
I think that's what you impart in people too, is to believe in themselves and in the higher power and just in everything. What horizons do you think Felicia is going to tackle next?
I've always wanted to be like a motivational speaker. Um, Again, I like helping young people. I like helping more disadvantaged people, people that can't see themselves getting out of their current circumstance. To let people know that, my mom used to say this: don't let your circumstance of today dictate your outcomes for tomorrow. Where you are today has nothing to do with where you can be
Mm-hmm.
5 years from now, 10 years from now. Again, you have to believe. You have to believe that what's predestined for you, it's out there. You got to be willing to go out there and chase it and get it. And I think it would be, title Mustard Seed Faith. I think if you just have true faith, mustard seed faith can carry you. It can.
If we all were able to understand that we are all interconnected in one way or another. They wrote a play, 6 Degrees of Separation, which I reference all the time, and that we are all significant. We are all important. Every single person on this planet serves a purpose. And if we could be there for one another and show that type of support and kindness, random acts of kindness, being supportive, giving back, whatever it is, get out of ourselves and into helping another individual, another person, it would just be a much better planet.
We have to learn to let people recover. And what do I mean by that? I family members where, they get into drugs, they get into trouble, they get into this, but we have to allow people to recover. One bad act does not negate the total person that God made you to be. You don't know what has transpired in somebody's life that causes them to snap one day and do something that we could all imagine we could never imagine they could do. But does that mean for the rest of their life they have to stay under that dark cloud and never be allowed to recover? Even the people that are in prison and do time and blah blah blah. My dad did 39 years in prison.
Wow.
Oh, God bless.
And he's now, I love him to death. He's very wise. He's very intelligent. He's old school, but he still has so much good in him. And that's why I say, if you can let people recover, what somebody does at 15 or 25, that doesn't dictate who they'll be at 50 or 60. It doesn't define them. And so I think when we can learn to give people grace and let them recover, we'd be surprised. It's kind of like you said, people really are more alike than we realize. We're more alike than we are different.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody just wants to live a happy life where they feel like they can take care of their everyday needs. They can take care of their family. They don't have a lot of stresses. They have good health. I mean, even when it comes to race, white, black, Asian, Hispanic, still at the core of people, we all just want the same thing: to live a good life, to be happy. And if we could just accept people in spite of our differences, and just realize that my color doesn't dictate what kind of person I am.
Absolutely.
Yeah. 100%.
Beautifully put.
Yeah.
And if everybody approached the planet and the human race from that perspective, this would be a very, very different place. And who am I to judge anyone? I love the saying, that there's until you've walked 10 miles in a man's moccasins. Yep. Who are you to judge?
Mm.
Who am I to judge? And I love that is something I work on daily and practicing daily, because it's so easy to flip into that mindset, and that is not who I want to be on this spinning planet.
I think if we spent more time really getting to know people as individuals,
Exactly.
realizing everybody has a story.
Mhm.
Everybody has a story, and what happens to us as a child really kind of dictates. We just become adults of whatever childhood we came out of. I believe that.
You can go to the grocery store and you'll be in line with somebody and they can have attitude, but you don't know if they just got diagnosed with cancer. You don't know if they just lost
You
their
have no
child. You
idea.
don't know.
You don't know,
Mm-mm.
and so you again grace.
Mhm.
I
Exactly.
say a
Allow
prayer for
people
that
to
person.
recover. Sometimes if you just smile at them and say, "Hey, hope you have a nice day today," you'd be surprised at how people will shift because they realize, "Uh-oh,
Just finding a kind word to give to somebody. I do that whenever I go shopping at the grocery store. I love to cook, so I'm at all kinds of grocery stores all the time, Felicia. Um, I always the checker, there's a long line, they're exhausted, and I always make an effort to find something kind, engage them in conversation, ask them how they are. And I've had people, because I tend to go to places, repetitiously, that have pulled me aside at times and just said, "You have no idea how much you lightened my day, 2 weeks ago when you came in and really asked me how I was. And you really meant it. You really wanted to know." That is a very small gesture.
I'm just gonna keep it real though. If I try a couple times and you're still an asshole, I'm gonna leave you alone.
there you go."
Okay.
There you
Well,
go.
then you don't have to invite them back to your house for dinner,
You
for
know,
heaven's
I'm
sakes,
gonna leave you alone.
Yes.
I've been in places where people customer service jobs and "Hey, how are you?" and they and there have been times where I said, "You don't like your job, do you?"
Oh,
And they laugh.
right.
I'm sure they laugh.
And I'm like, "Well, this is a customer service
Mhm.
job, so if you don't like people,
We
then
got a
this is
problem.
not your
Yeah,
job."
we need to we need to reevaluate. Okay.
If that were me and somebody said that to me, I'd start laughing. I'd be like, "Oh, wait, you know what? Humor in the situation because there's so much truth to it."
Felicia, we have reached the end of the show where we have what we call the significant seven. These are 7 rapid fire questions. They are the same 7 questions for every guest. Are you ready? Are you ready for the significant 7?
I'm ready for the significance.
Felicia, if you had to choose one word that holds the most significance in your life, whether it defines you, guides you, or challenges you, what would it be and why?
Happy. I try to stay on the positive side of everything. And I believe if you can smile in spite of, everything's going to be okay. Happy.
What is the most significant piece of advice you've ever received?
Always trusting God.
What is the most significant risk you've ever taken?
I think when I left home and went in the military, for me, that was a risk, but it was a necessary risk. Because I didn't know that I didn't know how that was going to turn out, but I was willing to. It's like Felicia, and I've tried to go in as a under the dual enrollment with one of my aunts, both my aunts, and neither one of them wanted to come in. Tried to get a couple friends. I just said, "You know what? I'm doing it by myself." And I went into the Air Force, and I said, "I'm going to be okay." Even my mom told me, "Felicia, I don't think you should go in the military. I don't think it's going to work because you don't like people telling you what to do."
What is the most significant life lesson that you've ever learned?
I think when I think back now over my life, I think probably the biggest life lesson is be true to yourself. Um, Control you. You can't change other people. The only person you can control is you. So be true to
Mhm.
you.
What significant moment in your life changed how you see the world?
I'll be honest, when Trump made president the first time, I was stunned because of all the things that he had said and done up to that. When he talked about grabbing women and the this and the that, and every time something happened, I thought, oh, and again, nothing against him. He is who he is. But I was shocked that the United States would actually say this is okay for him to represent us as a country. That changed the way I looked at people and made me think, who are we? How do we see this as okay? Because he's showing you who he is. How do we think that this is okay for him to be the head of this country? So yeah, that was probably a now, like I said, a lot of people ain't gonna appreciate me saying that, but that's my truth.
What significant relationship has shaped you the most?
Oh, definitely my husband. Just learning how to, because again, we are like night and day. and learning how to live in a space with somebody else and allow them to be them and you to be you, and figure out how you can take those two independent lives, merge them together, and be happy.
What is the most significant truth you've come to understand about yourself?
So I know that I have a strong personality. I know that I can be opinionated, but I know that I'm also very caring and giving. And I I've learned that I don't have to always voice my opinion. I mean, over the years, I really have and it's been probably within the last 3 to 5 years. I'm learning that I don't always have to say something. I don't have to have the last word in the room. So sometimes it's better for me to be quiet and walk away.
Well, Felicia, it has been an absolute honor, a privilege. I think that you really encapsulate exactly what this show's about. When I first had the genesis of doing this show, we've always been as collaborators, me and Signy, what are we doing that's important in a space that where are we contributing? Society puts certain people up as more significant. This person is
Yes.
significant. And I wanted to just break that and show,
Yep.
hey, you know what? Yeah,
Very important to
one week
us.
we'll have a big celebrity on, but the next week we'll have a UPS driver. Everybody
Right.
is
Mhm.
significant in their own way and is
There
contributing
you go.
to the fabric of our society in some way.
Of our society,
So,
absolutely.
but it was an honor and a
You
privilege.
guys are so on. You know, when I first came out the Big Brother house, I had said that I wanted to at some point start a podcast. I said, remember when I said I like just talking to people, mentoring
Yeah.
people? But I believe in just everyday people, because just like you said, everybody has a story. Everybody,
But it's so true.
Yeah.
yes, everybody
So
has a
true.
story. Everybody has a purpose. And I want to, like you said, just highlight everyday people. Some people are bigger than others, but at the end of the day, you know, we all eat, sleep, breathe. We were born and we're going to die.
You are amazing. You're amazing. And thank you so much just for sharing all of your wisdom and all of your insight. Because I think a lot of people can walk away with a lot of different,
Oh my
insightful things that you
goodness.
shared. So, Felicia,
You are a beautiful breath of fresh air, and you have so many pearls of wisdom. And I'm so grateful that you joined us today.
yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
Your
you. I
husband
appreciate it.
and your son are blessed to have you.
I'll tell him you
Yeah.
said
You
that.
make sure and tell him I said that.
Until next time, everybody, take care.
All right. Bumpy out.